So I've just been shopping in Lidl and I bought a ridiculous thing and I'd like to show it to you. I bought the Powerfix Digital Angle Finder. Now, this is being sold next to a set of digital calipers, and I'm pretty sure that all of you will be able to think of 1001 uses for digital calipers. They're extremely accurate measuring device, and they can be used around the house and in engineering and in general sort of mechanics and any sort of activity really. But I am struggling to find a use for the digital angle finder. I've not seen one of these before, and in operational terms you'll see that it's actually very similar to a set of calipers in the terms of the electronics used. So we'll have a look at this now. The one thing I would immediately notice is because it doesn't come with a case. The calipers normally come in an expanded polystyrene or something case. This just comes in this sort of, well, clear packaging that you might expect to find a carrot or something like that in. Maybe not a carrot, but some sort of soft cheese or something like that. These are the normal sort of run-of-the-mill quality. Anyway, they're not particularly poor quality. And I should imagine that this edge is particularly straight, so that could be quite useful in engineering terms. In fact, I'm pretty certain that's a very straight edge, actually. In fact, it's two straight edges. So, we'll have a look at the device now. Just to start off with, if I pull this little slot out, you'll see that it has a standard CR2032 lithium battery. That would come with a brand name one. It's a Mitsubishi. And it actually came in separate packaging, so I haven't actually looked on eBay, but I kind of presume that these things are not particularly common. Although obviously they are now, because everyone who's gone into Lidl has thought, well, that's fantastic, I must buy one of these. So yeah, unlike digital calipers, it doesn't have any data logging output facility. The thing it's got is this sort of lockdown adjustment. Now you can see the encoder mechanism here, that when you turn it, these two wipers actually sort of move along here, but I think they're just actually a spring, which makes me think, is it worth just undoing this and seeing what's on the other side? I probably won't actually do that, because I would actually quite like to use this, and I suspect they might break it. The other thing I can't really easily do is measure the current draw. Normally I would like to see how long the battery lasts in standby mode, because if I put this in here and zero it out and turn it off and then move it comes back on again. So it's constantly measuring the position of this related to this, and even with it off, as soon as you move it, it comes back on again. So it knows what's happening the whole time. So actually on and off, generally on at least on the digital calipers, makes no real difference to power consumption. And these very cheap Chinese ones get through the batteries quite quickly whether they're on or off. So just as a matter of course, you can just have the thing off in a drawer, and in 6 months or so you have a flat battery. Now that actually makes me think that this may have power consumption on it. No, it doesn't. So that's you can see that this is just a label stuck onto a generic device. However, it does seem very accurate. If I just lay it down on my flat table here and 0 it, and then sort of fiddle around with it. And the other really odd thing is that, so you go to 0 here, you come off 0 that way, and it measures an angle. So then you can go around the house. So you come up 350, 360, and then it goes to error. So if I do another lap, as it were, so that's 1. And that's 2. We go back. So you do 1. Still on error. 1. Still on error. No, I'm not going to press anything. And 2, look, so clearly when it's counting the pulses from this rotary encoder, it counts from 0, and as it keeps going, it goes, oh, this number is greater. I mean, obviously, I don't know what this is broken down into, but it keeps counting beyond error. It doesn't just sort of overrun and just sort of go, well, that's it, you just have to reset me now. It keeps counting, keeps counting. When it comes back the opposite way, it counts down. So I'm just wondering, when I get really bored, I'm probably going to run this round a lot of times and just see, say like 50 times or something ridiculous, because that would make a huge number in its memory, and see whether if you spin it back 50 times it actually comes back and starts measuring digits. So yeah, if you go back then from there, anti-clockwise, come back to 0, and if you think about how many times I've moved that, and I put it back down on the straight edge, right? It's completely accurate. Look, it hasn't forgotten. It's still on 0, on 0.1. Oh, I think it's really quite amazing. The other thing is, obviously, if I do this, place it at 180 degrees, this is 180.1. It's surprisingly accurate. So, this is the thing with the state of electronics as it is. That's the other thing. You go off that angle, and it doesn't just ever display a negative number, which is slightly odd. So you go straight here. That's 2.5 degrees, and you go that way. It's 2.1, and then obviously it comes back around again. And again, if you go around the opposite way, we get the error thing again. Now, of course, you can't just 0 this. And there we go. So, yeah, you can see how you use this to measure an angle. I suppose this is useful. Now, if you're dealing with drawings, if you look on the box here, it almost looks like he's measuring the device itself. Again, what's going on there then? Oh, now, what does it say about it? It says it's a digital angle finder for variable precise measurement and transfer of angles. Well, I'm not sure it can do transfer because it doesn't have an output. Obviously, you can just write the number down from 0 to 360 degrees. Well, that's obvious, but no, not above 360 degrees. And obviously, you probably wouldn't want to do that. But it can measure above it, but it can't actually output it on its display. Very odd, and also quite interesting. I'm really kind of fascinated about that. It's got an LCD display, or what doesn't these days, for reading measurements easily. You reset to 0. Ruler with millimeters and inches, which it does. It's got this slightly sort of Chinese-looking typeface. I always think that the Chinese are quite obsessed with these slightly thin serifed fonts. It's a very sort of Chinese thing anyway at the moment. It includes battery. Oh, that's very generous of them. It includes instructions. It's usual little thing of having extremely good instructions, which we can have a look at. I'll just go and get them. Here we are. So let's have a look at these instructions. Digital angle finder. If you've forgotten, you lost the manual, you can look on the manual that you've lost and find out. You can get one from lidlservice.com. There we are, same photo again with the sort of high-tech pen. This one, look at this, with a fold out. I have to say, whoever does these instruction manuals for Lidl, they really are going above and beyond, because they are just superb. This explains how to put the battery in, how to measure angles, which is pretty self-explanatory really. And here we go, intended use only for private use. Well, there we go. Not for commercial use. Actually, I'd see no real reason why not to use that commercially. They're a capacitive measuring system. Liner capacitive, well, that's obviously a bit of a typo. But what's interesting is the fact it's a capacitive sensor here. Basically the same as a caliper, except instead of it being just one long sensor, it's obviously a sensor that's sort of curled around. Liner, well, presumably it means linear. It's not linear, is it? It's circular. So I think it's a mistake. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because I probably am. Some ridiculous safety instructions. It can be used by children aged from 8 years and above. So presumably when you get on your 8th birthday, you know, you're quite capable of using this. But there we go. Well, these are quite obvious things and very reasonable as well. A huge thing just about batteries. Now, it's interesting. Switch the product off before inserting the battery. Well, I didn't do that, did I? Anyway, how are you supposed to turn it off before inserting the battery? How would you know if it was on? Doesn't make any sense at all. This is important. Remove the battery from the device if it is not in use for a long period of time. That is definitely right. That's excellent. It has a low voltage symbol. A lot of these don't. I don't know if you can actually see that on the screen print on the LCD. When changing the battery, you may experience faults where you get this like, odd thing sometimes. Well, that's very obvious. Starting it up. Tip. Yes, that's the odd thing that we measured again. Turns itself off after 4 minutes. I don't actually really know why. What was this on-off switch? Like, you know, just moving it turns it on and it turns itself off. So I think it's just there to make you feel better. It really is, because it doesn't actually do anything in terms of saving power. So don't yeah. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's 3-year warranty though. I've got no doubt really in my mind that this wouldn't last 3 years, but there we go. Keep your receipt. Well, that's their caveat really, because nobody ever does. You lose your receipt, and after 3 years, well, you can still find a receipt for something you spent 10 quid on, and Lidl, well, there we are. Be their guest and they'll give you 10 quid back. So yes, there it is, the Powerfix digital angle finder with 3-year warranty. Remarkable. I bought this because I like the look of it. I kind of wanted to see how it worked. Well, it works exactly as I expected, and it's a very nicely made thing. I say very nicely made. I mean, it's as well made as I'd ever need it to be. I'm sure someone at AVE or someone would complain that it's very badly made and get his microscope out. I mean, it isn't perfectly made. These don't really feel like they line up very well, but I think given its accuracy, which is very good, these things are incredibly accurate, by the way. I mean, they just don't seem to be wrong at all. I mean, I've measured the caliper version, several ones against themselves, against reference standards, and they just are spot on every time. So yeah, you give them their due that these little capacitive encoders just work beautifully, but are heavy on batteries. So yeah, if you can think of a real practical use, the only thing I've been able to think of is if you've got a bolt and you want to angle tighten it, you could use this for measuring an angle. Although I always find they'll say something like 90 degrees, which suggests if it's such a round number, well, it has to be 90 degrees, but not really bang on. Also, like, I'm not really sure how I'd do that. So yeah, I'd like to hear from you any sort of practical suggestions of what you could actually measure with this in real life, or if you use these in your job every day and you say, oh well, we use it for this, that'd be really good to hear. And so until next time, thanks for watching.